This is not the video I wanted to make regarding this game. The gameplay footage you are seeing now is from the game Alien vs Predator 2010. Quite an old game now, but it's still fun and unique in that it lets you play the game in 3 different ways. However, as of December, the game is completely broken on Steam. The game cannot be launched. It doesn't matter which launch option you select, the game will not start. I'm not the only one having this issue, as on the Steam's community for this game, the same problem has been reported multiple times. There is a bootleg way to get the game running by replacing the game's exe files with foreign ones. However, this doesn't actually fix the game, as it will crash and freeze, usually during combat, but sometimes it can just happen when next to in-game effects like fire and smoke. This is obviously quite annoying for anyone that wants to play the game, but what is totally unacceptable is how Sega are still selling the game despite its recent problems. I don't care how old the game is. If you're going to sell a product, then that product needs to work, okay? If it's not going to work, then it should not be for sale. It's end of discussion. Players should not have to go out of their way to attempt to fix it themselves. I don't know what it is about standards in the gaming industry recently, but they are constantly getting worse and worse. It's bad enough that games release lacking content or are just incredibly broken and buggy, but to see a classic game that was working fine for many years to suddenly stop working is frankly appalling. You see, I was going to make a video on this game that would have been a retrospective review / breakdown of the game. It would have been a fun video for me to make, and I like to think you would have enjoyed watching it as well. I wanted to talk about how fun this game is despite some of its quirks. You know, for example, playing as the alien is actually quite challenging, playing as the marine makes you feel like a badass, and the predator is the most tactical as you have to rely on stealth and try and avoid open confrontations, especially with the humans with their guns. They'll quickly cut you down. But it doesn't matter, right? So in October, I played about half of the game, completing the alien campaign, and about 80% of the marine one. Absolutely fine, not a single issue, right? But wanting to go back to it to make this video, I quickly realised something was up with the game when it wouldn't start, right? You see, it was getting stuck on updating executionable. When you try and launch the game, it would just stay like this. Sometimes it would return to the play button, and other times it would stay in this state indefinitely. As I mentioned, there is a solution to get the game running. Someone on the Steam community did provide a fix, and that is by replacing the exe files with the ones seen here. This will get the game to run, but it will crash and freeze, as seen in this footage here, and here, and here, right? Now, I was able to unfreeze the game by opening Task Manager. This would bring the game into a windowed mode, which would then show the game at the pause screen. Upon hitting resume, the game will start playing again, but only briefly. In fact, sometimes the game would freeze again, sometimes only after a second or two of gameplay. As I remember from playing this game as a kid, there were some big fights towards the end of the game, and while I might have been able to push through all the freezes with this method I just mentioned, I decided I would just leave it here. Sometimes when a game does not work on Steam, you can attempt to validate the files. However, this does nothing to fix the game in particular, so there's no point in even trying. I wanted the retrospective video on this game I was going to make to be a fun one, and if I had continued playing, it would severely sour the experience for me, with the technical issues completely overriding any fun that might come from the game. Now, sadly, you cannot get any support from Steam with this game. Naturally, this is the first company I tried to approach, as they are the ones displaying the game for sale on their platform. But with not getting any help from Steam, I decided to contact Sega themselves, who are the publishers of the game and owners of anything related to the Xenomorph in video game form. For example, they're the publishers of Alien Isolation and Colonial Marines. Although I don't have much hope to get anywhere with Sega, while reading through a player-created technical support post on Steam, one person wrote how they first contacted Rebellion, who told them there was nothing they could do, so they should just contact Sega instead. Sega replied to this person saying there is nothing they can do because the game is old. And I'm going to reiterate, okay, if you can't support the game, then don't fucking sell it. Right? Like, it's not that fucking hard, so just don't sell the game. If you can't fix it, don't sell it. Either way, if the game continues to exist in this state, or even if it's taken down, it will be lost to time, which would be a real shame. I believe classic video games should not be left to die. I can totally understand why a game's multiplayer servers might be switched offline, but if the game has a single player component, then that should remain playable for as long as the game is still available for purchase. Furthermore, if you go on Sega's website, you can find a list of games that have been or plan to be delisted. If you look here on the Steam tab, there is no mention of AVP on this list. In fact, there is no mention of AVP anywhere on Sega's website. When I wrote to Sega support to get an answer for myself, I had to pick an entirely different game just to get the message across to them. Now, I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert when it comes to these things, but out of interest, I googled this sort of scenario where a piece of software is being sold but does not work. In the UK, under the Consumer Rights Act of 2015, Section 34, titled Digital Content to be of a satisfactory quality, under point 181, it states, and I quote, "Digital content will not be in breach of this section if the consumer was made aware of the aspect of the digital content that makes it unsatisfactory before the contract was concluded." In point 178, it states, and I quote, "The section requires the digital content sold to consumers must be of satisfactory quality according to the expectations of a reasonable person." For the record, I don't plan on opening a court case against Sega, okay? I do not plan on taking Sega to court, just in case any of them are watching, but these 2 points in the Consumer Rights Act might save them from someone else opening a court case against them if they fix the game now. Sega is in no way making consumers aware that the product is currently faulty anywhere on the game store page or on their own website, okay? And I don't think anyone would be unreasonable if they said, I want the game that I purchased to start and actually run, alright? So I, as I said, don't know much about, law and legal rights in the UK. It would seem to me that these 2 points here kind of going against them, and they want to sort that out ASAP because somebody might even take a problem with it. They might take them to court. I'm not going to, personally. I don't even know where to start with this sort of thing, but it's currently unacceptable the way the game is for sale, and it's not working. I'm not going to let this video drag on for much longer, but I felt inclined to make this video as the game has a small player base as it is, and if nothing is done or nobody starts pointing out the problems with getting it to run, a classic video game that many of us enjoyed back in the day, I mean, I certainly did, and maybe you did too, it will be lost for good, and there's nothing we can do about it then. If they don't want to support the game, or they remove it from sale, it's going to be gone. So it would be better to just have the game working and for sale, right? Instead of the condition it's in. So I don't want a refund. I was only paid £2.50 for the game. I'll spend more on a coffee, a pint or a Big Mac. But I do want Sega to get their act together and support games that they are still selling, regardless of how old the game is. No excuses, okay? I have sent some of my own technical data from my PC, as they have requested me when I contacted Sega support. Once I hear back from them, I'll leave a pinned comment with what they say. On the whole, me ranting like this might seem strange to my subscribers. It's not really the sort of thing I usually do, but I felt like I should bring this issue to light because I don't know if anyone else will. If you want to see this game get fixed, do leave a like. Also, if you own the game, let me know if you're having issues with it. It's entirely possible this issue does not actually affect all Steam owners of the game, but from going through various forums, it would seem that it is affecting quite a few owners of the game, okay? Thank you for watching, listen to me ramble. I don't want to make too many videos like this, but until next time, I will see you in the next one, hopefully with something more positive to say. Thanks, guys.